not gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's DOA. It's like you're always stuck in second gear, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there.
Isolate ourselves from what is new. This is going to be discussed on a ton of levels, both historically and currently. And the same applies for number 3. I think we often think of these conquerors as just pure evil because we're looking back with a modern day perspective. But challenge your students to think about the effects if these conquests hadn't happened. Like, how would their lives be different, or how would the world look different today? So these are some fun questions to spend some time with. Okay, again, the TEKS and knowledge and skills, I would definitely recommend reading those on your own. There's quite a few, so just take time to kind of go through it and piecemeal that into your lessons. But I did want to highlight some of the reading and humanities skills. This infer purpose and its influence on content and style is really important to both AP and IB. Push scholars to think about why the author wrote the document and how the audience or purpose may have changed his or her style. I think the connection to current events, news, etc. is really easy to make here, and that may help scholars to see this tendency to craft your debate for the audience in which you're trying to convince is something that has existed for centuries. It's not anything new. You see the same skill pop up in the humanities specific portion, along with then pushing scholars to craft their own arguments using historical perspectives that disagree. The Reading Like a Historian readings I create often ask scholars to do this, and the ones on the Stanford website, Reading Like a Historian, are really awesome at allowing scholars to develop counterclaims based off using historical evidence that may say all different aspects. And my readings are available on Blackboard in the resource bank, and the Stanford Reading Like a Historian website is linked on our scope and sequence, but if you need any help finding that, definitely just reach out to me. We'll go ahead and move on to interdisciplinary connections. This is a great time to show other content area teachers the statement inquiry for this unit and get them to incorporate that same idea into their subjects, maybe even try to convince them to use the same statement of inquiry if possible. It's definitely most easily connected to English and art, as scholars can explore how we see how unique our stories are when we read those of other people. And in art, they can explore how the artist's time period and location in which they lived influenced his or her work, which is also something we should just be asking scholars anytime we do any artistic analysis in art class. And then for the unit project, I would definitely get in touch with your audiovisual teacher to see which platforms scholars are familiar with using in his or her class. And that'll be really helpful in the project, especially if you aren't super tech savvy. I know I'm not. So I always kind of pick their brain to see what websites or presenting tools scholars are more familiar with. And then lastly here, a connection to science can be made when talking about the Black Plague. TED Ed on YouTube has an awesome video that incorporates like the historical aspects of the Black Plague with the more science technical aspects of it. I always try to make time to show that and discuss it, and maybe you can ask them like what they learned in biology or chemistry about things like that, and it's kind of fun for them to see the connection. Okay, we're moving into stage 2 of the unit plan now, and the unit assessment for this the assessment for this unit is an advertisement for a major trade city of the post-classical time period. Scholars have had a lot of fun with this in the past, and you'll get some really cool things, like they take it a lot of different ways. I like also that it has this element of choice, as they get to choose which medium to create their advertisement. So some scholars do a website, I've had some do like a movie clip on YouTube. You get really all sorts of cool stuff. And if you see down here, it does assess criterions B and C. Criterion B is assessing how the scholar investigates his or her civilization, the quality of research, the sources they find, how they cite it, that kind of thing. And then criterion C is more how the scholar communicates this information to the audience. So that's assessing more the actual presentation. I do have a timeline for how I have rolled out this project in the past. I definitely recommend taking a look at that to see if it works for your course also. If connection to the statement of inquiry should become pretty clear to scholars, since they are highlighting what is unique about the city they choose, which in turn shows them how unique other cities are. And also just how trade opened up this world of choice and options for personal and cultural expression. I'm going to go ahead and move on to stage 3. Once you read over the rubric for the assessment, the task descriptors, definitely just reach out if you need more detail or have any questions, anything like that. So for stage 3, approaches to learning, I focus this unit on information literacy skills. This will help them on their unit project, and especially as we start preparing them for the investigative task or the research paper. I would definitely devote class time to this judging and interpreting sources. I'm sure we do this already naturally, but just taking the time to make sure we're focusing on that will be really helpful. And this can be incorporated into most lessons, really any lesson where you look at a primary or a secondary source. It's an important skill for not only their projects and papers, but just for the AP, CA exam, future history courses, and on and on. The learning experiences for this unit, I try to be pretty detailed since CTLs don't make daily lesson plans anymore. But as you look through them, if you see anything that you don't know what I'm talking about or you'd like the document I use, just feel free to shoot me an email and I can forward that along to you. I did want to mention a lot of it is also in the archived curriculum from last year on Blackboard. So just, again, reach out if you have any questions after you look through those. I also did try to intentionally vary the learning experiences in this unit so that scholars have time to practice the DBQ skills and also those that will be necessary on this unit project and that investigative task that we're leading them up to being able to do. The differentiation and formative assessments are pretty easy to read on your own, but I just wanted to take some time and mention in this unit that this is typically where I see scholars who struggle with reading really need this differentiation and help. Most of my scholars have gotten pretty used to reading primary source documents by this time of the year, but the few that struggle will definitely need annotated copies of documents, etc., and doing this ahead of time really saves you a lot of stress. The DBQ especially can be really overwhelming as is, so taking the time to modify or differentiate that before you roll it out to your students is really vital. Okay, as far as the day by day in stage 3, again, I will not read them all to you. Just take some time to read over the key points, objectives, exit tickets, all that good stuff. But I did want to again mention that the AMLs are noted underneath the day, highlighted in yellow, and that's my annotated model lessons. And then any readings that I create that in that reading like a historian style are also noted. Again, those are in the resource bank on Blackboard, and the AMLs are in the AML folder. This Crusades AML is one of my favorite lessons I teach all year, so I would definitely recommend looking at it and seeing if you can incorporate it into your class. I always really like it, the scholars like it, and it's always just a memorable one. When they reflect on their end of year survey, I have a lot mention that lesson. And I also was really excited about some of the readings I found for this unit, so take a look at those for sure. And just a little reminder as you're going through this section, the exit tickets, I do make sure all the exit tickets align to the CA and the unit project. So even if you change it, that's great, it's your class, but I would just make sure your exit tickets are also keeping up that vertical alignment so we're preparing scholars and scaffolding those skills they're going to need. Okay, that's this unit in a super quick snapshot. Again, it's a really dense unit, so I would take the time to read through the unit plan, annotate it, kind of internalize it as you need to for you. Please do not suffer in silence. I would definitely recommend using any resources uploaded to Blackboard that you think would be conducive for you, and reach out with any questions ever, even if it seems minor. I'm definitely here, and I will be sure to get back to you as quickly as possible. You can call, text, email, whatever's easiest. Also, if there's something that you come across that you think the whole group would benefit from kind of discussing and unpacking, definitely email that to me as a suggestion for an upcoming office hour or virtual roundtable. I do want those to be as helpful to you guys as possible, so just always reach out. And I will see you all soon at Collaboration Day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
stuck in